Welcome to the Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that can help ignite that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes or so. Our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has developed Launchpad, which offers an opportunity for experienced executive coaches to become licensed circle directors and earn significant recurring revenues. After completing the Launchpad program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of accountability, challenge, and support. If you'd like to learn more, go to quaidcircle.com. I am really excited about our show today. We have Kim Svoboda, founder and CEO of Aspiration Catalyst in Chicago. Kim, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
Awesome. Well, look, we're going to jump right into it. In your line of work, you see all kinds of people, you see all kinds of leaders. You've seen excellent leaders and maybe some that aren't so excellent. If you could start to narrow it down and say, this trait or these couple of traits separate the really excellent leaders from the not so excellent leaders, what would one or two of those be?
Oh my goodness. It's hard to choose, right? But
Yeah.
here's what I'll tell you. So Gallup has done extensive research on this. And one of the things that they did was they went out and asked leaders, if you could rate yourself on your effectiveness, are you above average, at average, or below average? How would you rate?
Hmm.
What do you think the leaders said? How many of them said, I'm above average?
Gosh, I'm going to go odd. I'm going to say that most leaders said they're average.
Okay. Well, yes, that's probably a bit more accurate, but 80% of leaders rated themselves as above average.
No kidding.
Right. And it's like, oh my gosh. So then, of course, Gallup had to follow up by asking their people, how would you rate your leader? Above
Uh-huh.
average, at average, below average? How many of their people rated their leader as above average?
I bet it flipped and went 20%.
30. They were more generous.
Yep.
But wow, like that's a huge gap, isn't it? And
Yeah.
so my answer is two-part. One is self-awareness is a huge,
Yep.
right, part of a leader being truly effective, right? Being aware. Nobody is great at everything. We all have strengths. We all have weaknesses, and being aware of them
Mhm.
and right, trying to do more of what you're good at and try to work around the stuff that you're not so good at and get better at it. That is a key part of being an effective leader. The second thing is you have to keep learning. Like this leadership thing is not easy. I wrote a book on it, but my book covers one section of leadership, right? It's not even everything,
Right.
to try to make it easier. But really, I think this learning piece, I'm always learning. I've been a leader,
Mhm.
well, probably my whole life, in various
Yeah.
roles, but from like a corporate America and then running my business perspective, it's been almost 40 years. Like it's been a long time. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I still have plenty of things, right, to be reminded of or to learn for the first time. So I would say those two things absolutely set the better leaders apart from everyone else.
So that's awesome. I want to do a mashup of those because I think that the self-awareness piece continues to evolve too, right? The more things
Yeah,
that you do, the more places you put yourself in, the whatever you as a human continue to grow and learn. So you're constantly learning who
yeah,
you are, or you should be learning who you are every day, right?
exactly. Well, and like, isn't there a quote that's something like, right, the older I get, the more I realize the less I know?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's so true. I think sometimes, maybe when I was in my 20s, I was like, I kinda, like I'm almost there. I almost got it. Like I'm right
Uh-huh.
on the verge. And then as I would evolve in my career and have the ups and downs of successes and many failures and bounce backs, I realized you don't have everything figured out for sure. Like there is so much more to learn and to understand to be right as effective as you can be.
Yeah. That's good. So let me ask you this on the self-awareness piece.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a little bit here, but with entrepreneurs and somebody who starts their own company, or
Yeah.
even CEOs that get in there, like there's a component of them that feels like they have to be all knowing and have this, huge personality, and, have to know everything that's going on, and be involved in every decision and all that kind of stuff. That's obviously not the case, but how do you work with people who are coming into that role for the first time, that have that mindset, that ultimately over time you learn that that's not the case? What does that look like with you? How do you help them become self-aware? Maybe is an easier question of that, and to be able to let go and trust other people, and not put up these fronts and all this kind of stuff.
So I kind of feel like maybe you've been in some of my recent group sessions and one-on-one coaching sessions, Mark, because this is, as you are, sort of insinuating, this is a huge challenge, right,
Mhm.
for entrepreneurs, but not just entrepreneurs, for leaders in corporate America, like
Yeah.
leaders in all sizes of business. This is an issue. And here's what I find: they mean well.
Mhm.
They really do. They're not trying to be a jerk. They're not trying to micromanage. Most people do not want to do that. But often what I find is they have this huge sense of responsibility that makes them do more. Help. Oh, you're struggling with that? Here, let me jump in and help you. Right?
Yep.
That is not at all what that person needs, but they don't realize it. And so they think they're doing them a favor, but actually what they're doing is they're completely taking the wind out of that person's sails, and they're not giving them the opportunity to learn and to grow themselves.
Mhm.
We talk about teams being excuse proof and goal crushing, right? So that's the
Okay.
goal, right? Is to help leaders build
Yep.
teams that no matter what happens, they can navigate it. But they actually are built when leaders stop rescuing and they start empowering their teams. That's when they're built. They should be able to operate when you're not there. They shouldn't be so reliant upon you that, oh, you go
Mhm.
on vacation or you're gone on a business trip or whatever, and all of a sudden everything stops, or that we're waiting for Mark to get back, right? Like, they need to be able to make their own choices and own decisions. And sometimes that also means allowing people to fail.
Yep.
Put the guardrails in, right? Like, my boss used to say to me, there isn't anything you're going to do to that that's going to like bring the company down. Just go, right? Just try some stuff
Yep.
and see what happens, right? But like, you don't, I don't need to be here to make all the decisions. It's funny. So my career, I got to start up new things. I worked in corporate America for 25 years, and I built businesses from dollar zero up to millions, and then I'd
Mm.
hand it off. So I did this over and over again. How did I get so lucky? I don't know, but it was awesome.
Right.
But when I first started my very first division, I was in my mid 20s. I knew this much about being a leader and starting up something new, really. And I came into him a couple times with my list of things that I needed decisions on, and
Mhm.
he humored me the first
Mhm.
two times I came in, right? This is the president of the company, right? And I'm
Yeah.
bringing in my list. So the third time he takes my list, he gently slides it over to the side and he leans forward and he said, Kim, if I have to make all the decisions here, one of us isn't needed. And I go, okay, Greg,
Yep.
you want me to make those decisions? Are you crazy? Like, are you sure? And he said, yes, I want you to make the decisions. And I said, okay, but like, I don't know anything. And I'm like terrified I'm going to make the wrong choice. And he goes, you are going to make the wrong choice sometimes. And I said,
Mhm.
well, what do I do then? And he said, you beg for forgiveness. He said, and then we move forward.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And he was right. Like, I made some really good decisions and I made some terrible ones.
Yeah.
And he would help me work through it. And then we'd, be back to the races again. So it was quite a great, I was so lucky to have that kind of empowering and trusting leadership so early in my career. He gave me so much confidence because I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try some stuff and we'll see what happens. And everything didn't have to be perfect, didn't have to always go well, I had to, it was trial and error was an okay way, right, for me to learn and grow. And I grew fast as a result of that.
Where do you think he learned that? How does one come about that? Because it's not natural,
Right.
right? Like that's not an innate trait.
Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know if I know, right? Obviously, he
Yeah.
must have had someone in his life who was like a great mentor or leader. I will tell you, he was the president of the company alongside the CEO, right? So I worked for a company called CDW, right? Big, huge,
Yep.
right? Technology company, B2B company. We were 100 million in revenue when I started with the business. Right now, they're like $25 billion. Michael was the CEO and Greg was the president, and they trusted each other.
Hmm.
Michael let Greg do his thing, and Greg let Michael do his thing. So it was at the very top of the business.
Hmm.
This was the way, right, that we did things. So I think that also reinforced that it was okay for Greg to do that with his team because that was how he was being led.
Yeah. Well, so then think about the impact that it had on you and ultimately has throughout the entire organization, right? That empowerment piece, not only, well, really what it does is it builds people up, right? It gives them
Yeah.
more um, personal power, more confidence to be able to do new things and attempt new things and try new things, which ultimately lends into, assuming you're hiring the right people,
Right.
which ultimately lends into company performance, right? Which is
Totally.
and more and more and more and more, right?
Yep. It was funny, like, I had a second boss there who was my sales manager, and when I would go to him for answers, he would say, "What do you think you should do?" And I'm like, "Ugh, would you just tell me? Like, I
I
just
just
want
want
the
you to tell
answer."
me.
And he's like, "No, I want you
Yeah.
to think about it, and I bet you're gonna come up with a great answer. If you wanna come in and talk to me about it once you have, your idea, come on back, but I have faith in you. You could do this." And I'm like, oh, it was so hard because you're like, I
Yeah.
just want a quick answer. But it actually taught me how to come up with my own answers, which I think then led me to get that bigger job where I got
Mhm.
to go, right, build these new divisions.
Yeah, the other thing that's interesting in companies with great empowerment is if it's new, right? If you're bringing empowerment into a company and an organization and a culture that didn't have that before,
Yeah.
it's scary
Yeah,
for your teammates,
for
right?
sure.
Because before the boss always made those decisions. Like, okay, cool, it doesn't happen now. So
Yeah.
what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's I had an opportunity in a bank to do that, and I followed a leader who was not empowering, and I am an empowering leader, and we had an initiative, and we rolled out very specific um, uh, projects, I guess, to 9 different individuals. They'd never been empowered before, and so I'm like,
Mm,
okay, as a group, we said, okay, here are the goals that we're going to do,
yeah.
and you're leading this one, you're leading this one, and it's like, okay, cool. Go back to my office, and there's a line of 9 people, right out the door. Like, okay, cool. What do you want? I'm like,
What
I
do
don't
you
know.
mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I make it excellent. What does that mean? I go, I don't know. Go figure it out.
We're
Right?
going to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was amazing the results that came out of that.
So this is exactly like this is my, premise. I want to underline and underline again. When leaders become the best version of themselves, the team stops waiting to be told what to do and they own it.
Hmm.
They own their results. So not only are they like getting creative, right? Much more innovative, really like probably coming up with a solution I would never be able to think of on my own because I'm
Yes.
not wired the same way they are. They have different strengths than I do. And then they own it, right? And that sense of pride that comes from we did it, ugh, there's nothing better,
It's
right?
huge.
There's
Yeah.
nothing better. Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah. And going back to coming up with ideas that I would have never thought of, you would have never thought of, they're also on the front lines, right? Where
Yeah.
you and I are not. So you're going to know better than I am what's going to work better for the client or whomever.
100%, right? I can't be there every minute. I trust you, right? You're the one who's right there in front of the customer. Like Nordstrom, right? They were like, do what you think is best, right? Do what you think is best to take care of the customer. that empowerment, right? Like that Nordstrom is still a very different store than most stores out there, right? Because their
Yeah.
level of service is higher because of how they empower their team members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, we need to get to a point where that's what our personnel policy is, right? Is one page, just do the right thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's scary though, right? Like you're like,
Yeah.
"What? Do the right thing." I mean, does that mean the same thing to everybody? And how do we define that? And right? Then it all of a sudden you're down a rat hole basically. But
Yeah.
I think having guardrails is helpful, right? Like, so I think about it like a highway, and I've got my guardrails on either side, and you've got lots of room in here to do what you need to do.
Uh-huh.
But it's also clear that we don't want you going off the road, right? Like, so we're
Yep.
going to make sure and keep you safe there and help you, right, stay on the right path.
Kim, this has been awesome. As I said, we kind of try to do these in bite-sized nuggets, and so we're starting to come to the end of our time.
Yeah,
I want to ask one last question of you. If you
yeah.
think back to 21-year-old Kim, what is one thing that you wish she knew at 21 that you've learned over the years?
Oh gosh, that's a really good one. I think what I would say is that don't be so scared.
Huh.
Take more risks. Don't be afraid to leap and do the things that scare you. I think sometimes, especially when I was younger, I was like waiting for permission or someone to invite me, and I think as I got older, I just learned that I could just take my place, right? Like
Yeah.
I could just take my place. And I think sometimes maybe people who are leaders and they're not sure what to do, they're waiting for someone to come and tell them or save them. And I would encourage you to just stand up and take the initiative. Um, go buy the books, go, do whatever you can do to invest in yourself, even if your company, right, isn't training you or isn't providing opportunities, you can still do it on your own. And if I can just Here's a great resource.
Yeah.
The book
Love it.
that just came out last week. So bold leadership. And bold leadership it's not about like being bold, like being the loudest voice in the room, but it's about having the clarity and courage to lead when it matters most. And it's actually a process. So it's about having a vision, being self aware, being a leader for others, and having the ability to clear the path for execution. And every chapter has an exercise at the end of it, so
Hmm.
you learn the concept and you apply. So, like things like this book, there's lots of different things that you can do to invest in yourself to take your place, to
I love it.
be, right, to grow into the leader that you truly can be.
I love it. So you've shared about your book. Talk about what a typical engagement with you looks like and how can people get a hold of you?
Great. Yeah. So, I love the work that we do. I started this business 10 years ago, and that was one of those times where I was scared, right, to take the leap, but I did it anyway. And I was like, well, if it doesn't work out, I can go back and get a job. And knock on wood, I haven't had to do that because we just keep growing and growing. So I have a team of 6 coaches, and we work with, companies across the country. We specialize in mid market, but we do have some fast growth, smaller businesses. And then we work with, many of the Fortune 500 as well. And a typical engagement looks like 6 to 12 months. We're doing group sessions, one on one coaching. We have a platform that stirs up micro learnings to help people apply what they're learning in between. And we help them skill up so that they can be the most effective leaders that they can be. We really, I think, one of the tools I use is the Gallup Clifton Strengths Assessment. I don't know if you're familiar
Yep.
with that,
Yep.
but it helps you understand what your strengths are. And that's where we focus is how can we double, triple down on the things that you are naturally talented in to make you the best version of you? And that's really like our model. So our programs are standardized, but also we customize and tweak them to
Uh-huh.
fit the client's needs. So it's so much fun. I love the work we do, the impact that we make. Like there is nothing better in this world for me than when someone says, Kim, I did that thing that we learned or that we talked about, and it
Yep.
totally worked, right? Like, like that just feels great, right? So making a difference, making a positive impact. Leaders create the biggest ripple effect in this world. Whether they use their powers for good or for evil,
Yep.
the ripple effect is undeniable. And so our goal is to empower more leaders to make that really positive ripple effect in the world so that it's great for everybody.
Amazing. And how do people get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me, our Aspiration Catalyst website. It's www.aspirationcatalyst.com. Or also feel free to email me at kim@aspirationcatalyst.com.
I
Love to
love
hear
it.
from you. Yeah, thank you again, Mark, for having me on. This is so great. I really enjoyed our time together. And I love the work you're doing in helping support CEOs through peer groups. I think that is a very powerful model. And I commend you for starting that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been a blast. We only tapped a little bit of what we have in common and how we align. So we may have to do another episode.
I'm in. Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. All right, y'all. We found another amazing leader, some more insights that are here to help you continue to grow and reach that CEO within you. As a reminder, our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has created Launchpad, which provides an opportunity for experienced executive coaches to become licensed circle directors and earn significant annual recurring revenues. To find out more, visit quaidcircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks for listening.